Hello everyone and welcome back to Agent Nagash, which channel dedicated to Age Sigmar, and in this video it's going to be my why play Hedonites of Slannesh. So before we get into this video, I just want to say a shout out to my patrons. So we've got my Morghast, which is Sam back, my vampires that are Mir, Martin S, Ruis321 and Max T. We then have our necromancers, that is Jack Hill, Radiation Riley, AW77 and Dice Sagas. Just want to give you guys a massive shout out for all the support you give me. And if anyone would be interested in becoming a patron, there's a link to it at the top of the description down below, where anything you give helps the channel keep going. Okay, so on with the video. The idea of these why play videos, if you haven't seen one before, is to establish if this is an army for you. So in this case, like I say, Hedonites of Slannesh. So we'll be going over a little bit of the lore, do a summary of that, and then we're going to go over the strengths and weaknesses of this army. And this is also going to be off the table as well as on the table. So that'll be things like the hobby side of it rather than just gaming with the army, as the hobby is a huge part. So hopefully by the end of this video you'll decide if the Hedonites of Slannesh is an army that you are excited for and really want to play, or maybe you'll find out there's an army that you would rather leave for now and try something else before you take the plunge. Alternatively, if you've already got this army and let's say it's been sitting on the back burner for a little while, hopefully this video will give you some motivation to get those models built and painted for when we can all start gaming again. Okay, now there is going to be a little bit of a caveat to this video, as there is a Slannesh Mortal release coming round the corner, which I suspect to be January time. I believe that's going to be the month of the release. Not that I've heard anything official, but it just seems to fit in nicely for everything else that's planned. So I will mention the fact that obviously we've got Slannesh Mortals coming out. However, what I will say is that if the Slannesh Mortals get their own book, i.e. they don't become Hedonites of Slannesh, then I will do a why play video for them as well. But I think they will become part of Hedonites of Slannesh. I just think there's going to be a new Battlestone to come out, as it looks like there is a lot of mortal units coming. There's far more than just the 3 they showed. There is plenty more coming after that. But this video will predominantly be reviewed upon what is available now, with considerations of what is to come, presuming it is similar in play style to what it is now. And the reason for why I am doing my why play Hedonites of Slannesh now and not waiting for the actual release of the Mortals is just because really I've had a lot of people tell me there's not a lot of content out there for Hedonites of Slannesh, mainly because there was a lot of problems with them when they first released, so no one really discussed them too much apart from the broken stuff. So I thought it would be quite nice to give some content for Hedonites of Slannesh and just Slannesh in general, as it is my favourite Chaos God, and this video is going to be a little bit biased towards Slannesh, but that's okay, because if you're watching this video I presume you are a fan as much as I am. Okay, so firstly talking about the lore for the Hedonites of Slannesh, and we can't start that without talking about who is Slannesh. So the Dark Prince and Princess's beauty is beyond imagination. Slannesh is neither male or female and is the youngest and, of course, the best of the Dark Gods. Slannesh does not gain devotion through one single passion, but instead gains devotion through all of excess of passion, and most notably in perfection, joy, and lust itself. This is why warriors are drawn to worship Slannesh, as they seek to pursue perfection on an obsessive scale to become the best in their craft of warfare. It is not only warriors that are drawn to Slannesh though, but citizens of the mortal realms too, as it is always tempting for mortals to throw away the shackles of their imprisonment to society and live their wildest fantasies and dreams. Slannesh is currently imprisoned and chained by the elven gods. However, his throne will not remain empty for long, as many mortals and demonic champions strive to take it. Although, if any one of them achieve this task, their reign will be short-lived, as Slannesh has been working tirelessly to break free of his prison and is almost there. And the interesting thing as well is if you've read the Morathi book from the Broken Realm series, the first one there is more details about this and the development of this, but I don't want to say it in this video just because I really feel like that's something you should read for yourself, or if you really want in-depth lore on that, please go check out 2 Plus Tough. He does fantastic lore videos, as I'm sure you guys are aware. If you're not aware, get yourself over there and subscribe. And he's done a big review on all of the lore that was in that Marathi book, which involves developments of Slannesh. So I don't want to do any spoilers, so I won't go any more into that. But what I want to also talk about are the followers of Slannesh. And they see the Dark Prince/Princess in many ways. Tribes in the realm of life believe that he/she is a gigantic serpent chained to the ocean floor who will break free one day and will reshape the realm of life. Whilst other tribes in the realm of fire believe he/she is the very burning fire of passion that burns inside everyone's heart and soul, that makes people strive for their deepest desires. Whereas the Temple of Slannesh from the realm of shadow, where they worship the god of perfection similar to our own Greek mythology, the Temple of Slannesh is not evil in terms of its intent, but it's actually quite the opposite. It believes that perfection through the gifts of Slannesh are the next step in evolution for the citizens of the mortal realms. And as so, the Temple of Slannesh is dedicated to bringing enlightenment of the purity of perfection to every creature in the realms, one way or another. Okay, so now that we've talked about the basics of who Slannesh is, the best Chaos God, as I've already mentioned that's really sort of the takeaway from this, but also what sort of gifts does Slannesh give? Because as we know, like Khorne, for example, will give brutal strength to his followers, Tzeentch would give sorcerer's might, that sort of thing, and Nurgle would give his followers dysentery. Okay, but Slannesh, on the other hand, gives his followers their deepest desires they have, as none are beyond his or her powers to grant. At first, they may seem like innocent wishes, however they soon turn darker, for further they worship him or her, as Slannesh is also the god of excess and obsession. This could be improving swordsmanship, precision with a bow, or even gifts pursuing your vanity to make you so alluring no one can resist you. The gift could be empowering the sheer feel of pleasure a follower of Slannesh feels when they indulge their psychotic desires, making them chase the dragon's tail to increase this overwhelming feeling. Although many mortals and creatures are willing to dedicate themselves to Slannesh, this is not the only way how the Dark Prince and Princess will gain power, as Slannesh will still gain power from let's say, an army of Daughters of Cain, who dedicate their lives in perfecting their art of their combat, or a general who oversees the defences of a bastion of order, as another example, and is obsessive over trying to make there be absolutely no weaknesses in the bastion's defence. Or it could be as little as a person who indulges in their passion for cooking and food. It can be really as simple as that. And I think with that, I kind of want to draw the lore section of this video to an end. Because like I said, this is only kind of a summary that I've came up with for Slannesh, and I think it really is enough. Obviously, you have like the demonic side of Slannesh, and there are some interesting characters there. You obviously have the Mask, you have Shalaxi Hellbane and stuff like that. But if I'm honest, the demons interest me less, and that's not just for Slannesh, that's in general, because I always love the mortal side of Chaos because they're more relatable, right? I can see why a mortal follower will dedicate his life and his soul and just unbelievable amount of willpower and strength and determination to worship a certain god to gain those benefits. It's more relatable. A demon's kind of almost a shard of the god, and it's like they're just that way because they're an element of the god. You know, they haven't really got any freedom of choice and willpower, whereas the mortals do. But what I will say is, like, one of the things I like about one of the demon characters, like I mentioned, Shalaxi Hellbane, is that she has a immortal grudge against Skarbrand, which I think is really cool. They fought each other many a times, and they have never bested the other, which is really interesting, because Skarbrand, obviously a really big named character, bloodthirster, all about strength in combat, whereas Shalaxi Hellbane is also combat focused, but is just almost mesmerizing in her style, or his or her style, because it's not really gender specific, but in just the way they fight. And it's almost like a dance. And, you know, the strength and pure brutality of Korn Skarbrand is just can't keep up with the grace and perfection of warfare and combat which Shalaxi Hellbane has got. But obviously, on the flip side of that, Shalaxi Hellbane, like I said, hasn't bested Skarbrand either. So it's like this immortal rivalry they have, which I think is really, really cool. Okay, so with that, that is going to be the lore section of this video done. I will do an in-depth video series on Slannesh at some point in the future, which will at least, of course, be after the Mortal release. But if I'm honest, probably a bit further. It really just depends when it wins in the polls and stuff, as you know, how I do my list of videos you guys basically get to choose. So, with that aside, let us go into the strengths of this army. Okay, so firstly, like I say, off the table, it's an army that has a really, really nice model range. I'm also, when I say that, thinking about the new stuff we're going to get as well, which at this moment in time, we've only seen 3 units, which is Sigvald and the 2 other ones, the ones with helmets and then the ones with demonic faces, who I'm going to give helmets so they don't look really derpy. But you can also see lots of stuff in the background that looks cool, right? So model range is really cool. You've also got a load of demons that got updated models, like the Keepers of Secrets, and, you know, obviously Slasher Hellbane there being the other name character. And then you've got, you know, like I say, the Mask. You also have things like the Fiends, got really nice models, especially compared to what they looked like before. God, ghastly. Okay, and then you also have things like a terrain feature, which is nice. And you've got things like endless spells, which I know, like, well, that's mainly on the table, where it's extra models in it to build and paint, and it's extra models that you can use to convert up for other things as well, which is very cool. You also are going to have a huge range of other things you can bring into the army, such as your Slaves of Darkness and things like Beasts of Chaos, if they are taken within the Slannesh battalion of the Beasts of Chaos Battletome. It then puts them into the Hedonites of Slaanesh army, or they can be put in that army, is a better way to say it. For myself, I am building a very sort of slow build, but it's getting to, I'm over 2,000 points now of a Slannesh Slaves of Darkness army. So this is an army for my Slaves of Darkness that I'm predominantly using in Slaves of Darkness at the moment, but I would like to use it in Hedonites of Slannesh later, as it's just the same army, but basically I'm getting double my money because I can put them into 2 different allegiances. I have got that. Of course, in the new Hedonites of Slannesh Battletome that will probably come out in January, if it's not a Broken Realm book, because of the amount of units we're getting, like I say, I think it's about time. Obviously, it could change, and Slaves of Darkness might not be able to be part of a Hedonites of Slannesh army, but I really hugely doubt that, because they will also be able to have the Slannesh keyword, so they should work anyway. And I can tell you, it's an army that, like I say, has taken me a while, and there's pictures throughout this video you'll be able to see, but it's an army that I have loved to work on. And although painting white is a massive pain in the arse, and sometimes it makes me want to quit the hobby when I'm painting it, when I see them all together, it's all worth it. And I really like that sort of like colour scheme for my Slannesh army, which kind of ties into another thing. I think it's, although like I said, it's a pain painting that white, it's really nice when you see it all together, and it just makes me feel like I can, for example, the Slaves of Darkness, paint in a different light. It's obviously Chaos is obviously seen as being very dark, you know, well, Slaves of Darkness is that part, but you know, like very dark and evil colours and everything. However, for myself, instead of giving them black, dark, evil armour, white armour, so then it makes them look more like the good guys, and it's just really sort of twists on the sort of standardized colours we have for army. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. And also, if you're looking at a lot of the Slannesh models and go, they're so well detailed, how am I going to paint them? If you're not painting for competition, I'd say you can get away with a lot of stuff. I'm going to mention when I talk about armies is contrast. You can do a lot of contrast with the Hedonites of Slannesh, because until we see what all the mortals look like, a lot of the Hedonites of Slannesh are currently demons, and demons can be painted up very particularly easy with the contrast for sure. It's probably going to be a bit difficult with the mortal stuff that's coming out, just because a lot of it looks like it's metallic, but you know, metallic doesn't take too long once you sort of learn how it works. Or for example, I paint my armor white, so you know, there's different ways you can do it. But anyway, so yeah, the model range and the building and painting is all there, and it's all very nice. Okay, so going more onto the tabletop for the army, which of course being Hedonites of Slannesh, they are known for being very combat efficient and also being incredibly fast. Now again, when the mortals come out for Slannesh, that could change, but having a look at them, they look like they're quite fast, and they look like they can certainly kill things pretty damn easily, and not quickly, because Slannesh likes to draw out the pain, doesn't he or her? So what do I mean by this? Well, your real killers in this army are going to be currently your heroes. And when I mean your heroes, I mean your keepers of secrets, as they have ways to essentially most of their fights. They're always going to be fighting first, despite whoever's turn it is. They can make one enemy unit within range of them fight last pretty damn easily. They also have a command ability to make themselves or another Hedonite unit attack again, so you can have a Keepers of Secret attacking twice in a combat phase. You then also have their weapons that if you get a 6s to wound, that is going to become mortal wounds instead of normal save rolls, etc. And with their big nasty claws, that is pretty terrifying, because they start off at 5 damage, I believe. And it's really quite scary how you can run like 3 or 4 of these in your list. And then the other part of this is when your Keepers of Secrets or your other heroes deal damage to the enemy, i.e. allocate wounds to enemy models, but don't kill the enemy models. So let's say you're attacking a Stormcast Eternal Liberator, right? And you do 2 wounds to him and you kill the Liberator. But the first wound you did to him didn't kill him, so that's like causing pain. And then that gives you a depravity point, which is basically your way of summoning. By having depravity points, you can summon certain things. Obviously, the more depravity points, the better the things you can summon, including the Keeper of Secrets right at the end. So, yeah, so they can do a lot of pain. They can get this depravity points from causing that pain, and then bring on more Keepers of Secrets. And then the interesting thing here is that if your Keepers of Secrets, or your other heroes I should say, but like we say, predominantly Keepers of Secrets, sustain damage, they will also generate depravity points, as Slannesh does not care where the pain comes from. So you can see how you can really rake up these depravity points straight away. And then something I do want to mention at this point is that this became quite early on very broken, because depravity was very undercosted. You could summon Keepers of Secrets back very quickly. And bear in mind, you don't actually need a Keeper of Secrets to die. It's just if you don't have a spare one to summon when you had the depravity points. But they've made it harder now for you to be able to, like I say, summon a Keepers of Secrets. Basically, the cost for your depravity has gone up to summon certain things. And also, it's harder for Keepers of Secrets to always fight first, etc., etc. So they have nerfed some stuff, and it really goes into a sort of weakness of the army, which I'll get to in a moment, so don't worry. But it's still very strong, and it's still very effective. So at the moment, the army does play very much like sort of like Hero Hammer, if you like. Your biggest and scariest thing in the army are like Keepers of Secrets, and you can also use things like Demonettes. To be honest, they can chuck out a lot of pain, especially how this army as a whole, or if you get a 6 to hit with models in this army, it generates an extra wound roll. So you have exploding 6s as just like a standard for the army, which is great. Absolutely amazing. And it was one of the first armies that I think just got it as standard, to be honest, before we saw different armies get the same effect. So that's really nice, and that's really cool. You also have your spells that are great. There's a particular one with basically the one that's the mirror, and it can make enemy units suffer damage if they don't move towards it and things like that. So you can really muck around with your enemy's movement as well, and you can really start playing around with them. You can have things in the army as well to make... there's an artifact, I believe, that makes enemy units not be able to retreat from you, so you can play around there as well. There's lots of things you can do with it, and I really do like the playstyle it has at the moment. At first, like I said, there was a problem because it was broken as all hell. Essentially, Games Workshop actually banned this army from playing at their tournaments, which really shows how good sometimes their rule writing can be. But it's sort of sorting itself out now. And then, of course, we have all the mortal stuff coming out that looks like it may offer a different playstyle, that sort of thing. It'd be cool to see what Sigvold can do. Obviously, Sigvold the Magnificent. It'd be very interesting to see if, like, are people going to replace the Keeper of Secrets with him, as an example. I also think that looking at the mortal infantry, they can do a lot of damage. And it's very nice to see them rather than just, like, demonettes as your infantry. I know you can import, like I said, Slates of Darkness stuff, but I mean, generically... Hedonites of Slannesh, and it also just gives you a different playstyle to the pure demons that we've got at the moment, as demons are the only real way to play the army, unless, like I say, you import Slates of Darkness or something along that effect, but demons are the most competitive, essentially. The army also has, like I said, very fast capabilities. Their chariots are extremely fast. Most of their models have a high standard movement anyway, so they can get around very quickly. And like I said, with your mortal wound output for this army, and also not bad rend across the board, you're going to be good against those elite armies and just armies with basically high armor saves, which, to be fair, are probably the most common competitive armies you get these days. Of course, I know things like, Daughters of Cain that are still very good. They're not really an elite army unless you take the snakes. So that's true, but a lot of the armies out there sort of rely again on powerful heroes, and like we said, the Hedonites of Slannesh, especially with their keepers or secrets, are very good against those things. I would also say as a beginner, this army is quite easy to learn because essentially it's pretty damn good. I don't always think like the best way to learn a game is by picking an army that's very strong in the meta, because the meta always changes, and if you go in at that assumption, you could be disappointed by the time you've got your army all built and painted. It could have completely changed. But it's an army that is quite forgiving, because if you take your Keepers of Secret into combat and it completely dies, you're kind of like a third of the way towards generating another Keeper of Secrets through summoning points. And summoning mechanics are pretty easy in this army to do without the enemy being able to stop you. So, yeah, it's a pretty welcome army for beginners, I would say. Also, I think Fiends are really cool, and Fiends are underplayed. I know that doesn't really have anything linked to what I've just said, but it's something I definitely want to play out in the army. I think I have at least 6 Fiends, maybe 9, that I want to try out in a game at some point, which will be cool. And I think the army as well will work quite well all together, being the Mortals and the Hedonites. Well, I say the Mortals and the Hedonites of Slannesh. What I really mean to say is like the Mortals and the Demons of Slannesh. I think they will work quite well together because they all will have presumably that branching Hedonites of Slannesh keyword, which is really nice because it stops you having to, like, I don't know, if you look at the Auric War Clans as an example, where it's like, it looks like it all fights really well together, but then it turns out there's some abilities that only buff Bone Splitters, there's some abilities that only buff Iron Jaws, or I don't know, Ogre Mortarides, where there's some abilities that only buff Beast Core Raiders, there's some abilities that buff Gutbusters. I would just like it all to be merged into one. So, like, it's nice that I think this will be able to have it, and by God, like I say, when those Mortals drop, you're going to have such a large model range to choose from before you even look at Slaves of Darkness and Beasts of Chaos, etc. Okay, so I think I've talked about the strengths of the army enough now, so I want to go into the weaknesses, and again we're going to talk off the table and then talk on the table. So off the table, as well as I said, this army has a lovely model range, but if you look at the models that didn't get updated, I just think they look a bit old. I mean, like, to be honest, you could say that you really like the look of Hellstriders, or you really like the look of Demonettes and all that sort of thing, but I just think it would be nice for them to be updated. Some of them get alright, and everything looks alright, but personally, I think that can be where some of the Slannesh stuff looks a bit derpy, and essentially brings the range down, I would say. Of course, Mortals are coming, like I've mentioned 10,000 times in this video, which will, add a lot more new models to the army. I just think it would have been nice if they updated those again, but, I could be me being greedy. So the other thing I wanted to say, as well as I did say that the army is quite nicely to be painted with contrast, depending obviously the units. If you do want to paint this army next level, shall we say, for competitions and stuff, it's an army that will take quite a while to paint. Now, this can be said about a lot of armies, but for Slannesh, there's a lot of details where if you want to go the extra mile, it will take that bit much more time. But like I say, you don't have to do it with the army at the end of the day. So it just depends really where you're coming from at that standpoint. Also, if you're going for full-on Keepers of Secrets, that sort of army, this army is quite expensive. Not as ridiculous as Lumineth or something like that, but, you know, Keepers of Secrets are, I believe, £85 for one, and if anything, that's just going to go up. And obviously, you would buy it from a non-Games Workshop, and you just get it from a third-party retailer for a lot cheaper, but it's still quite expensive. But, you know, we may see a change in this with the Mortals coming, but when I say that, thinking about it, to be honest, probably going to be a change for the worse, as those Mortals, because of how nicely they're detailed and just how nice they are, as you can see, I'm quite excited by it. They're probably going to be Lumineth prices, which means that kind of unaffordable for a lot of people, which makes me feel a bit sad, really, because I really feel like during a time of economic uncertainty, or, well, it's not really economic uncertainty at the moment, it's just bad economic circumstances of the world, it'd be nice if Games Workshop didn't hike their prices up, but here we are. So it's going to, I'm going to say it's going to be a high cost army, depending of course on what you want to go for. For example, you wanted to just like get a lot of stock collecting boxes, obviously that's not going to cost you too much, but you're only going to get certain models and units in that box. So you can really do what you will, but like I say, with any army you're going to buy, just get it from a third party retailer and it's just cheaper off the bat. So the other thing I want to say off the table as well, and it kind of links into on the table, is that as you can make this army very powerful and not as broken as it was, and to be honest, I'll get that bit out of the way done now. So when this army came out, it was very broken. It won practically all of its games, and Games Workshop banned it from its tournaments. That's how messy this army was, and they didn't fix it for absolutely ages. But essentially now what Slannesh seems to get, Slannesh seems to get, is every time there's an update, you know, in General's Handbook or, you know, a Winter FAQ, that sort of thing, the Hedonite Slannesh just seem to get nerfed, and then nerfed, and then nerfed again. Which, if I'm honest, they needed that. They needed the kicking when they were down just to try and make them not so ridiculous. But they seem to be at an alright but powerful playset now. But, you know, they're not like basically auto-winning their games at this point. So they're at an alright place now, but don't be surprised if they get like, let's say in the Winter FAQ, that's presumably going to come at some point soon from when this video is being released, and also their Battle Tome / maybe Broken Realms, but probably Battle Tome comes out. There may be some nerfs in there again, but really I think they'll draw a line under that. But it's just something to bear in mind that you could, let's say, buy a 2,000 point force, build and paint it, everything else, and then it turns out on the next update, your 2,000 point force is now 2,100 and I don't know, 60. Like, things have just gone up and you go, oh, I bought into specifically this list, now it's not working properly. That's something that could happen as just a realistic thing. That to be aware of, but, you know, that's fair enough. And I think with if you're buying from when the new Battle Tome comes out, you should probably be alright, because apart from some of the new models, they probably won't nerf anything else that's in that Battle Tome. So, with that aside, the other thing I wanted to say, as this army can be very powerful, just bear in mind who you're playing against. You know, if you're playing against your mates and you're not playing very competitively, and let's say you're all a bit new or something to the hobby, don't just take a list to just stomp on them. And I mean, obviously, if you've got that sort of very competitive feeling between you and your mates, and you all do it to each other, you all just try and get one over each other, that's obviously game to your heart's content of however you like. That's fine, of course. We're all like that sometimes. But if you're playing against people who aren't really massively competitively focused, don't put them off the game by destroying them with a Keepers of Secret list, and then when they manage to kill one, you go, okay, but I've generated one or two more. Like, you know, don't do that to them. But that's, you know, I'm sure most people think that, but I just thought it's something worth saying, particularly if you're new and looking to do this army as your first army. But that doesn't mean that that's the only way for this army to play. You know, you can be a bit more different, a bit more inventive, and try and come up with something else that will maybe really competitive and stuff, which is cool. Or, you know, it just means that it's not the auto go-to. You're not just being a sheep. So I think some creativity is good with this army as well. Okay, and then going on to its weaknesses on the table. First thing I want to say is this army has got a big weakness to shooting. And as I cover a lot of death armies, it's kind of similar, as you rely so much on your characters. But I'd say even more so in this army, because you're doing most of your damage via your characters, i.e. your keepers of secrets. And how do they do that damage? In combat, because they can pretty much always attack first, and then they can attack twice in the combat phase, etc, etc, etc. Their command points, they can do so many more wounds and everything else, and so many attacks, especially if you've got 6s to hit, blah 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 blah, like I've already mentioned. But they can't do any of that if your keepers of secrets have been hit by a Mortek Crawler catapult from afar. And let's say they were hit by 2 Mortek Crawler catapults, and then there could be a very, very dead keeper of secrets on the ground, because your army is not really survivable. As Slannesh has played for a long time now, even in War and Fantasy, it is a glass cannon army. High damage output, but not particularly good saves. Not terrible saves, not like 6 up everywhere, but not particularly good saves, especially for your like big, expensive, keepers of secrets, for example. That, yeah, like I say, you can have a few of them in your list, but they don't really have many inherent ways to get like after damage saves, or like ward saves or death saves, whatever you want to call them. So that's just something you want to bear in mind. Although your guys are really killy, they can die quite quickly. But what I will say as caveat to that, as most of your damage output stuff in this army, it's probably that's what is going to be targeted by enemy shooting, is going to be heroes and characters who will get the depravity points. So, you're going to get something back, but not a good trade-off at all. So that's something you want to bear in mind. And I know that your keepers of secrets are, monsters, so they're not going to benefit from Lookout Sir. But your little heroes that may be at the back of the board, ready to summon a keeper of secrets later in the game when you gather enough depravity points, or whatever you want to summon, it's not just keepers of secrets. You might want to, if he can be, just make sure he's in range of Lookout Sir. So it makes it harder for the enemy to deal with, because the enemy will know, and if they've got a lot of shooting and they've got the range, they will try and take him out to stop you summoning things back. So there are things you can do about it, but it's just not going to be a good matchup for yourselves, really. But you are very fast. You can try and get to the enemy as soon as possible to tie them up while you move your keepers of secrets up the board. Is something you can do. And as this army is not bad at magic, you can get quite a lot of casters in your army. The only thing I would say is that it's not extremely brilliant at magic, shall we say. If you go against a Nagash list or something, you've got a 3+ Unbind heading at you, or Techless, or Lord Crow, these different things out there. You haven't got really many inherent ways to get pluses to cast in this army, so it's just something you're going to have to take on the chin to not rely on your spells, but, you can say that about a lot of other armies out there. You also don't really have much shooting in this army as well. There are some things you can have, but it's very obscure, and like Chaos, there's not a lot out there. It's not like Zeech, where there's quite a few shooty stuff in the army. This army, you have very next to none, shall we say. But that's at the moment, okay? I just want to put that because I have seen at the back of the video we got for the Mortals of Slannesh reveal video, they looked like there was an archer unit or something. So obviously, if you're watching this in like a month's time and you've seen this massive missile unit come out, and then you go, oh, well, there's this missile unit, I just want to put in that caveat. So I kind of am aware, but nothing confirmed yet. But maybe a missile unit like we've seen from the HEDONITES of Slannesh warband from Diachasm, where you've got that like, I think like a Persian-looking archer or something maybe. Could be like a unit of that, which could be cool. Or it could be like big monsters with bows, which is always cool. Nice to have some Chaos-like Kern of Hunters. Would be good fun. And then the only other thing I sort of want to say for a weakness is, like I said, this army is very much built to deal with those like elite armies and small model count armies because of your higher end and your mortal wound output. Not really the best to deal with like horde armies, but I will again say that's if you're building a full, keep the secret list. If you want to take a lot of demonettes and stuff, you can deal with hordes pretty easily, as that's a lot of attacks you're going to be chucking at them. So that's kind of a weakness, but only for the standard builds for the army. Okay, and with that, guys, I really feel like that's the weaknesses for the army done. What I will say is that with the strengths and weaknesses I've given in this video, if you have any others and you've got experience playing this army, please let me know down below, as we'll all be interested to read that. As, like I always say, we're all here to learn. I'm not an expert on HEDONITES of Slannesh. I'm just giving you my opinions and my thoughts on them to try and help you out. So if you want to help us out in return, let us know in the comments. But as a summary for this army, why would you play HEDONITES of Slannesh? Number one, because Slannesh is awesome, it's the best Chaos God. I just love this pursuit for perfection. I think it's something that a lot of us can relate to and in real life. And even if you think like, oh, I'm not a perfectionist, there's always times where you feel like I can do better than this, I want to do better. And that's really where I like the draw of Slannesh. I like it that, you know, basically, as an example, a swordsman for Slannesh, shall we say, like one of the Painbringers, I think they call one of the new units, he has perfected his craft beyond all reason. Of course, he's not as big and as bulky as a Blood Warrior, but he is really, really skilled with his weapon. It's really, really, really cool. I think it's more in depth and interesting than a lot of the other Chaos Gods out there. And but that's my own personal opinion, right? And hopefully, if you got this far into this video, you're probably maybe thinking the same. And I think Slannesh has some really cool heroes. I'm a big fan of armies with a lot of heroes to run. I know some people aren't always a fan of like Hero Hammer and everything, which I understand. And it's, you know, it's not fun if that's the only way to play the army. But for me, I like taking, you know, big centerpieces to my games and cool characters. It's like, for example, when I run Slaves of Darkness, I love running Slaves of Darkness because it's very hero focused, which means I get to bring my cool heroes to the game and not just in a, I wanted to bring him purely because he's cool but he's not adding anything to this game. I wanted to bring him because he's cool and he's also going to add things to this game. So you kind of have that with the Hedonites of Slannesh as well. But I think really the biggest reason to do this army is because, like I say, if you got to this point in the video, you're going to want to do it. You know you want to. You just want someone to push you over that fence. And that's hopefully what I've done in this video. And beyond anything else, you're going to get that massive mortal release, which, like I say, I'm a big fan of the Hedonites of Slannesh, but not a huge fan of the demons. So that's why I spent, shall we say, a lot of time, money, and blood, sweat, and tears building and painting and converting my own Hedonites of Slannesh Slaves of Darkness army. I started that about 2 years ago because I was like, you know what? Can't wait for Games Workshop long enough. I'm going to make my own mortal army. And just when I'm like a good, decent way through everything I've got for my Mortals Slannesh army, as like I call my Temple Slannesh, which I gave a little bit of lore earlier, Games Workshop drops, bam, here are Mortals. And I'm like, they're too late for me, but if you haven't already spent loads of time converting up your army, it's really going to be a lovely army to collect. They just look beautiful, and who doesn't like Sigmar at the end of the day? But what I will say for me, I'm not too bothered about, you know, spending ages converting up your own army and then seeing like this big new mortal release drop, because I'm very happy with my like Greek mythology aesthetic I've got for the army. And although the new mortals looks like they will fit it, I kind of like prefer what I've done with my own army for my own personal taste. But I will look forward to adding a few units here and there to that army, as they will still fit in, which I'm very happy to hear about. So with that, guys, I am going to bring the video to an end. So what I want to say, guys, is that I hope this video has like pushed you over the edge to decide you want to do Hedonites of Slannesh. Like I say, best Chaos God out there, hands down. Or to be fair, if this has made you realise that it's not really an army for you, I'm glad you came to that decision before you've made the plunge. And if you've got this army on a back shelf ready to be built and painted, hopefully it's giving you a little bit of motivation behind that. Like I said, if you've got anything else you want to add to what we've talked about here, or you've agreed with some of the things I said or also disagreed, please let me and everyone else know down in the comments. So like I say, we can all learn from each other. That'd be great. What I will say is, if you did enjoy this video, please smash that like button and that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you have, make sure you smash that notification button. Little bell, it's just next to it. Click all those three things, and it makes a huge difference to the channel. It's absolutely free for you guys to do so. I've noticed on a few of my last videos, you guys have been smashing those like buttons. And honestly, it really does make a difference, and I can't thank you enough for it. It's something I realised when I started to become a YouTuber, is that, you know, you watch a video, you like it, and you go, oh, I've watched it, I don't need to press the like button. Then when you start doing YouTube videos your own, you learn how much of a difference that makes, and now I like literally every single video I enjoy. So just wanted to say that. What I also wanted to say as well is that a massive shout out to my Patreons, who, like I said, if you want to become a Patreon, or even just interested, please click on the link down below. It will take you to my Patreon site, and then you can see there's different tiers and different rewards for what you sign up to. Anything, even just $1 a month, guys, is what goes towards keeping this channel going. Quite simply, if I didn't have my Patrons, I wouldn't be able to continue making these videos to try and help as many people get into this hobby as possible. So thank you again to my Morghast. So that'll be Sandvac. We also have our vampires, so Mir, Martinez, Ruis321, and Max T, and then our Necromancers being a Jackale, Radiation Riley, AW77 and Dice Sagas. Honestly, I know I said at the start of the video, but generally, thank you so much for your support, and it really does keep this channel going. So you're all awesome, and keep it up. Okay, guys, so like I say, I may do another why play HEDONITES of Slannesh video, depending on how much changes with the Mortals dropping. And I probably, you know, I'll obviously do a review on them at some point in the future, like I mentioned. So until then, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember, like, subscribe, everything else I mentioned. And of course, remember, until next time, that you've got to stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask, stay hygienic so we can all start gaming again. And also, of course, remember that Nagash is all, and all is one in Nagash.